police, customs, immigration, the port health officials, and the technical unit on governance and anti-corruption reforms too. Yes, and also the quarantine service, and also a number of stakeholders who also use the ports. Source, the Danish International Development Agency, as well as MACN, for making this event possible. We appreciate you all for taking time out to attend this event. And we just want to inform you, we've already had our tea, and also to mention that your toilet, the convenience is to your left, outside the hall. Thank you very much. Very quickly, I would like to welcome Mr. Vivek Menon to give a goodwill message. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. I've learned that I think I'm supposed to get a response back, so very good morning to you. Thank you. Someone recently told me that the secret to Nigeria is in its people. And having been here for just a few weeks, I must say that I've been humbled by your hospitality, so thank you very much for all that you've done so far. We are gathered here today to address and discuss a topic that's also very close to our heart, and perhaps more importantly, core to the people of Nigeria. How can the service delivery of Nigerian seaports and terminals become an effective and efficient, integral part of Nigeria's vision of ease of doing business? Shipping by its own nature is very traditional, and many would say it's a very conservative industry. Having worked on ships myself and been in the industry for some years, I can very much vouch for that notion. It also brings certain traditional practices, especially when a ship comes to port. And some of these practices are in the form of gratification in various forms. But as you must have heard, Mr. Apapa, today there are laws which prohibit such practices, and which have also driven initiatives such as the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network. The Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, in short MACN, is a global business network that provides a platform for maritime businesses to work towards eradicating, if possible, corruption practices in the industry. And together with its 125 members, we represent 30% of global tonnage, 80% of container shipping, and almost 8,000 ships globally. And they are comprised of vessel owners, vessel managers, and it also includes cargo owners and various supply and service providers. Over the years, MACN has developed and shared practical tools, best practices in the anti-corruption in the maritime industry sector. We have also implemented various collective action initiatives in various countries, including Nigeria. And specifically in Nigeria, its implementation of the standard operating procedures and the grievance reporting mechanism through the Port Service Support Portal, PSSP, which was developed by the Nigerian government. Now, it is our objective through such events to launch series of interventions aimed to promoting the transparency and consistent use of these standard operating procedures, which will eventually lead to a more predictable, in time and cost, vessel clearance and cargo clearance. It also gives stakeholders such as yourselves here an opportunity to be a part of this ongoing collective action to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of Nigerian ports and terminals. We believe through collective action, we can create a safer, a simpler, and efficient operating environment which benefits everyone, but most importantly, which is respected by everyone. I take this opportunity to wish you all a successful day ahead. I look forward to the discussion that will unfold from this meeting and also interacting with you in person. Once again, thank you very much and welcome to this session.
I think we can be more generous with our applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, if you go to the second page of your notebooks, you will find the agenda. In case you're looking for the agenda, it is actually in the notebook. In the interest of time, we're going to give opportunity now, but maybe I should also underscore what the day is about. From the video and from what has been said by Mr. Vivek Menon, I hope we've gotten the impression that, contrary to popular belief, there is actually something the government is doing that is working quite well. And so this stakeholder meeting is all about how to enhance it. What can we do to make it work much better? We know it is working, but it's not quite there yet. So how can we strengthen it is what we're hoping. How can we improve service delivery at the Nigerian ports is what we'll be talking about today. Let me start by maybe recognizing a few persons who are here with us today. We have Mrs. J.C. Nwazu, who is the Assistant Controller General of Immigrations in charge of border management. Please, can you show yourself? Thank you very much. Oh, Kwazu. Apologies. You've met Mr. Vivek Menon from the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network in Denmark. We also have Mr. Babatunde Ruwashe, who is the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Please, a round of applause for him. Just walking in is the representative of the independent, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. Apologies. The ICPC, who is representing chair of the Project Steering Committee for the Ports Services Support Portal and other reforms. I would also like to recognize Mrs. Ezedimma of the Nigeria Shippers Council. She's a director at the Nigerian Shippers Council. Please, can we be more generous with that? Thank you. Mrs. Ene Ogenyi, also of the Shippers Council. Mr. Fadikpe of Shippers Council as well. Madam, I'm sorry, I don't have your name, but I know that you are representing Tinkan Island Container Terminals. You're welcome, ma. I know there's also a representative from the Bureau for Public Enterprises, BPE. Yes, you're welcome. Mr. Oboma, who is representing the DG Nemasa. Where are you, sir? You're welcome, sir. Okay, and we have also representatives from NAFDAC in the room. From NAFDAC, okay, they're at the back table over there. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I know we owe the Ports Authority, apologies, represent Mrs. Williams from the Ports Authority. You are very welcome, ma. Yes. So, without further ado, we think that we will go straight, if we can, into the panel discussion, because our time is fast spent already. But how we're going to have it is that in the panel discussion, we're going to set out what exactly has been going on from 2012, and to ask ourselves the questions: has it gone far enough? How can we strengthen it? And is it as well used or as well known? How can we improve the level of awareness that stakeholders, both within government and outside government, have regarding it. Because we only have 5 places, I will invite 5 people to be in the panel initially, and then we will give the other agencies an opportunity to speak from the floor, and we will then throw question and answers open to the rest of the floor. That is how we plan to proceed. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mr. Babatunde Ruwashe of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Can I invite Mr. Fadikpe, who is the officer responsible for the PSSP, the specific project that we're looking at, Mr. Fadikpe from the Shippers Council. Can we have after him the representative of the ICPC, please, as well? Please come forward. Can we have Mr. Oboma of the of NIMASA representing the DG? And we wonder if Mrs. Williams of the Ports Authority wouldn't mind also joining on the platform. A round of applause, please. We know that you are not necessarily speaking officially on behalf of your agencies for those who are in government. And we also hope that everything that we discuss here really stays here, and it should not be attributed. So please, I don't know if there's any, do we have members of the press here? Yeah? Okay. Please, the rules with which we are conducting our discussion, maybe when we come to question and answer, then we can, but we want to speak quite frankly about progress that has been made, where the gaps are, and what can be improved at the moment. I would like to start with the person who has been midwifing and managing the baby called PSSP all this time. Mr. Fadikpe, perhaps you can give us an overview of this project. What is this project about? Why should we have hope for that there would be service delivery and improved efficiency at the Nigerian ports?
Good morning all once again. Let me say a big thank you to the organizers of this program for having me on the show. PSSP, as the name inclined, Port Service Support Portal. This is an industry mechanism towards grievance resolution. It was put in place by the federal government of Nigeria and all the maritime agencies who are a signatory to this Port Service Support Portal. It was launched by the Vice President precisely 23rd of June 2016, and it has been up and running since then. What is it all about? It's a software mechanism whereby you can have what we call an online real-time complaints resolution. It has the advantage of being a one-stop shop for all complaints in the maritime industry in Nigeria. Equally, the data input onto that system could be used by the government for policy formulation. Also, data could be appraised and used effectively for feedback mechanism. It equally goes further to tell us in the grievance resolution mechanism in industry who does what and who is the highest infraction authority or agency within the port industry. And it will equally enable us to know what are the highest occurrence incidences within the port industry. All these things will be aggregated and reports generated for the industry. It's a very simple software to use. All you need to do as a first-time user is to register online by putting on the web page https://www.pssp.ng. When you do that, you get to the home page.
If I may interrupt you very quickly, the question is it working?
It's working. If you're in this hall, you can log on immediately as I'm speaking
No,
here.
not the portal. Effectiveness of the portal. Is it working, sir?
It's working, sir.
Can you give us an example
Okay.
of why you say it is working?
Yeah, why I said this is working is if you have any instruction as I speak, you can log in to that system and your infraction will be noted and you get a feedback. So it's working.
It's not feedback that people are looking for. They're looking for resolution of their problems. So are we getting examples of people making complaints and getting the issues resolved for them through this mechanism, sir?
In your remark, you've mentioned some. And as I speak with you, in the last 72 hours, we've recorded some successes again in the
Okay.
Lagos Port axis, whereby a vessel along berth had some such challenges with the officials of the government who are statutorily empowered to board the ship, and it's taking too long for that captain to bear. He quickly registered it on the portal, and our team quickly responded live to the yearnings of that captain. And those officials, as I speak, the relevant LEAs are taking care of it.
Okay, it's still a bit cryptic, sir. I know some things you cannot divulge, but maybe you can tell us. So I seem to be hearing that the procedure, which is that when officials board, they shouldn't spend more than 90 minutes on board.
Okay.
There was an infraction against that.
Yep.
Okay. And it was now taking much too long for the captain.
That is true.
So he complained through the process,
Yep.
and Shippers Council intervened immediately.
Being the administrator of the PSSP.
Okay, yes, as the administrator, got it to the parties who are responsible,
Yeah.
and then action was taken.
Because it is a live occurrence.
Okay.
That's why people have to be dispatched immediately to the site. If it's not a live occurrence, then the system will deal with it accordingly. But it's a live occurrence, which you cannot allow the system to keep working on it. So people have to go there immediately and get it resolved.
Okay, maybe I can
And
go.
the backlash, or let me say the aftermath.
Yes.
What I mean by LEAs is the law enforcement agents who are statutorily responsible to deal with such infractions. That's why I said that has been taken care by those agencies.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
We will come back to you again because I'm sure the audience will feel that this is new. It's not what, or do people generally know that you can get this level of service from the government? No. Okay. Maybe I should come to you first, sir. Maybe you'd like to make a comment or two to react to what Mr. Fadikpe has said, sir. Mr. Ruashe from Lagos
Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for the opportunity. Indeed, I was surprised, and that was why I was taking note, that there could be a because for people who are grieved, who have not been treated fairly or had not obtained the desired attention in the port. I am not aware of it. I mean, and if our chamber is the oldest chamber with the largest membership, because every day, every now and then, I have problems escalated to my desk. I have one now that's even taken off with the Nigerian customs. I never knew that a thing like this exists. I mean, somebody who's had his achievement in the port, there is a difference in classification. An item that's been brought even before now, for so many years, the custom felt it should fall under a particular classification, but this person said it should be this classification, which they got a dispensation from years back, even from the same customs. So they asked for a sample. Sample had been given since August. Up till now, there has been no resolution. What we were advised to do was to go and put a bond in place last week, and the consignment are lying there. So I don't know whether the sort of thing we are talking of would have been a tool that we could use, because that's so gratifying. But then also, yes, you could put something in place to work, but certainly we all agree that this system is not working. If it were working, the sort of problem we have at the Apapa port, a lot of complaints, it's either we don't know. So if you put on the light and put it under the table, nobody will know. So that's why I think we still to do more work, and we should, I mean, people will be very happy to know that you could go to complain somewhere. Of course, we know that the big one in the port, they are beyond control of anybody, which is the Nigerian customs. So I don't know whether the Nigerian customs is part of people you could also bring their problem before this system, and whether there have been successes. What I keep on saying is we should have transparency in our system. We should be able to check things and know, like what they are. If I make a complaint, I should expect that I get a reference number, and that reference number is pasted somewhere, and you give a timeline. Everybody can go there. I can log in and say, case number 1 dealt with, case number 1 resolved, unresolved because of this, of that, of that. If we could have that sort of a transparent system, I think it will help us a lot. Because like I was telling you, if I clear my consignment at the port, and just a kilometer out of the port, we have federal operation stopping my container, taking my container to Ikeja. One would have expected that unless I have stolen the container out, a lot of people should be punished, because there will be an officer that had cleared that same container. Nothing is done to that person, but then my container is seized, and for several reasons it could be detained there. One can liken it to when you have students admitted to our institution. We all know that if you are admitted to an institution of higher learning, there is something we call clearance. The student is cleared, and when he's in 300 or 400, you say he doesn't have the prerequisite to study the course. Hundreds of students are thrown out. But those who have cleared them are never dealt with. And you keep on perpetuating that same atrocity. So I think we need to, it's very gratifying, we need to look at this again, this very good product that we have. that we are not aware of.
I know Mr. Abadike would like to react, but I won't let you react immediately. I will go instead to Mrs. Williams, but please, I'm coming straight back to you. Please, can we pass that to Mrs. Williams?
Microphone.
Perhaps, Mrs. Williams, you can give us some idea. Is the Ports Authority a part of this? Who are the members of this project? Who are the participants? And if you can give us a sense of the history of this project, because clearly most people don't know, and I'm sure many people in the room don't know.
Let me start by appreciating this initiative, which is aimed at launching series of interventions as a way of supporting the activities of the Port Steering Committee, implementing the corruption risk assessment report in the maritime sector. Sometime back, there were complaints and allegations, more or less, of corruption within the port sector. When we talk about the port here, we know it is not only the Nigerian Ports Authority that operates within the ports. So quite a number of issues were flagged out, and this resulted in the commissioning of a study. When the report came out, that we call the Corruption Risk Assessment Report, government took it very seriously. We know that it is one thing to conduct studies. The main issue is implementation. So in driving the process of implementation, a committee was set up. We have quite virtually, I think apart from the Chamber of Commerce here, most of us are on the Port Steering Committee. We have the Nigeria Immigration Service, we have Port Health, all working towards implementing the major recommendations.
Is customs there?
In this project. Yes.
Is customs part of it, ma?
Yes, yes. Customs is part of it, and they do attend our meetings. We must be reminded that we operate a customs port. So they are a key driver towards anything that would happen in the port sector. So the Port Steering Committee has taken on board most of the challenges that were flagged out and the recommendations profiled. We meet on a quarterly basis. We try to see that we get better with at each meeting. For us in Nigerian Ports Authority, it is so heartwarming. Our desire is, or our vision is to be the leading port in Africa. And if you want to be the leading port in Africa, there must be that customer satisfaction. There must be transparency. There must be accountability. So we find the activities of this committee a paramount support to our own activities. And then you may score yourself high, but you should be interested, more importantly, in your stakeholder feedback. And the Port Service Support Portal is a feedback mechanism where at least somebody is able to tell you that I have this issue within the port. Please, can you look at it? Once it hits the portal, it is taken up, transmitted to the relevant agency to deal with. So for us, we feel that it is indeed a success story. And it attracted executive high-level launch of the SOPs. Why do we need SOPs? We know that corruption breeds where you have discretionary powers. So when standards are set, when you know that this is how I should be progressing, this is the pathway for this particular issue, and you are ready also to stand by the standard that has been set, we would be getting somewhere. So on the PSSP, you have the standard operating procedures of all the agencies. So you are able to go in there, look at for each procedure, what should you be expecting? And we feel that that is actually a step in the right direction. Still moving on now, it is one thing for you to have something like what our rep from Chamber of Commerce has said. It is another thing to have that awareness. And that is where this synergy between the government side and the private sector should really be applauded. We would need that patronage on that portal to bring in the issues, and we'll be able to work on them and closing in respect of issues that are brought to our own attention. So we have TUGA here, we have ICPC, like we have said, and a number of all the agencies here represented driving this process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Speaking of the ICPC, maybe we should ask the question that Mr. Ruashe asked in the beginning. Will customs be subject to this particular process? Is customs really part of it? I don't know if you'd like to answer that question, sir.
Good morning. The straight answer to that question is absolute yes. They have always been part and parcel of the process. When the CRA was conducted in 2012, corruption risk assessment was conducted in 2012, they were part of the process. The integrity plan put in place by the CRA report, the recommendation of the CRA report that indicated that there are grievances in the sector with regards to ethics, grievances in the sector with regards to service, delivery, and so on and so forth. And those grievances were to be resolved, not in the way that it was being resolved at that time, because when you have a report against a particular person, as it was flagged in the report, a particular person or agency, and the report was forwarded to the person and that agency to resolve, you see that there will be backlash somehow, I mean, for the person reporting. So, but the grievances were not getting resolved. So it was flagged, and the mechanism was put in place that, okay, make this grievance resolution mechanism an online thing that will be open to all the agencies, serving as monitor on one another. That, okay, we have problems in the port. The problem is with regards to agency A, and it is agency A that's supposed to resolve it. It's not being resolved. Everybody knows, and everybody will be able to call, I mean, themselves to, I mean, other. So that was the, I mean, basic reason to tar for, I mean, the PSSP. And it is not possible that the customs would not be part of what it was a part of from the start. Even now, they are part of it. And to the question that was asked by LCCI, or the statement made by LCCI that it is not working. It is not working is different from it is not being used. It is not being used. Not being used probably because the awareness was low, but every issue reported on that platform has been resolved so far. It's not as if it was never used at all. PSSP have been used on occasions and issues have been resolved on the PSSP. It could be better. The awareness could be created and more people could rely on it, and more grievances could be resolved through it. I mean, that is, and I think that is the objective of this intervention. That awareness should be created on the availability of that, I mean, platform for grievance resolution, and it should be used. But that it will not work, yes, it will work. And two, until this moment that we are talking, issues that have been reported on that platform have been resolved. It is working. The awareness is low.
Fadipe has some advice to share on this.
Just to make some clarification on it. And my president, sir, I just want to bring you to the memory lane and share some information with you. Last year, apart from the launching of the PSSP, which was done in all the ports of the Federation, Lagos, Warri, Apapa, One, and Calabar, everywhere, the awareness was there. Each agencies took it upon themselves to do an advocacy thesis to relevant agencies, private sectors. And Nigerian Shippers Council's chief executive visited SCCI, visited about 2 years ago when Mr. Nwosun Kena was the import and export group chairman as at that time. He visited, and I remember Mr. Nwosun Kena liaised with me, brought some problems on Sun. It was resolved. But he never went through the platform, and I don't know why people refuse to go through the platform. Probably the ICT level in Nigeria is low, or people are always in a hurry. I wouldn't know. But it was resolved. And to your observation that people want to know where is my complaints, what's my reference number, what is this, what is that, you can track this thing real time online on that system. And the issue of the customs that was mentioned, they've answered it. The customs are under the obligation to fall in line with whatever we have on the PSSP. And part of the success story is that issues against the customs on the PSSP were resolved. And the Nigerian Shippers Council equally have a platform of engagement with the customs quarterly. And I wouldn't know whether my director of regulatory services, who is presently here, will want to expatiate on that. And I know issues with customs are resolved. Thank you.
You want to react to that, sir? You know, whether you will react quickly. Mr. Oboma, we're coming to
yes,
you
it's
now.
gratifying to know that it's working. And like I said, I have a test case now that I'm going to put forward. This
Chamber,
yeah, which
we have to prove the system.
yeah, which is this question of sample that one of our members has given since August, and the customs is yet to come back with a result. Of course, our own conclusion is that the custom knows that what they are doing is wrong, because I mean it's a test. We gave a result that we have. I'm carrying this, and it's a bring sample since August. And we have given sample up to now, no result. So we'll test it, and it's then we'll also help to make it known to the whole world that this one is there.
Go to Mr. Oboma, because in Mrs. Williams' submission, I'm saying that because she's a lawyer. in what she said, she hinted that there are these standard operating procedures. The question, Mr. Oboma, is, do these SOPs cover every aspect of work, or are there areas that are not yet included in the SOPs?
Good morning, all. My name is Mr. Oboma, representing Nemasa. Going straight to your question, sir, I do not think that there is a way one SOP will cover everything. We may have to develop and make them tailor them to particular to everything. Like my own case, we go to the ports, we have the laws we were given by National Assembly, which is to try our best, keep the seas clean, keep it safe, keep it secure, so that the maritime commerce can go. In doing that, we have the people that do survey of ships, because you know that some of the contracts that are involved in this maritime business, like the contract of carriage, is premised on the fact that the shipper will provide a seaworthy vessel to be able to do this job. The master comes in to fill the gap between the two, to look at the ship, certify that it's seaworthy through the various mechanisms that we have. So in doing that, the master definitely will have an operating procedure which is tailored to it. For example, in recent times, especially since the introduction of ease of doing business, because I'm sure that's what we are here talking about, ease of doing business. Now, they accuse the master of arbitrarily delaying ships. Yes, the master has two main jobs. One is to regulate. One is the promotional aspect, where you have the 3% and the rest of them for ships. In regulating, they have to develop a standard procedure for that job. You cannot tell the person in ship survey, for instance, that you have 2 hours to survey a ship, or you have to go on board for 90 minutes. You have to go on board for 1 hour. No. We are required to go on board. If we find something, we can delay the vessel indefinitely because of one thing. A vessel is normally there. We don't arrest ships anyway. We only detain. The courts do the arrest. We detain when it is not possible for the vessel to put to sea without causing danger to herself, to the crew, or to the environment. And such things can never be withdrawn until she makes right that thing. You cannot say because you've delayed her, so she has to go. No. So when you put standard operating procedures in that area, it has to be tailored to the particular job of the master. So I don't know the one they have, the standard operating procedure, whether it covers all this. But anyway, let me congratulate them, let me thank them for making this PSSP platform possible. That means we now have an avenue, a mechanism through which we can lay our complaints. But one thing I want to ask, if the grievance is posted there, one, how does it get far to people? Is there an alert system? Assuming that the master is on that platform and somebody goes to the port and causes some disturbance and it is posted there, how do they make sure that the master gets an alert immediately to know? That is one thing. Two is, they say they've created awareness. But I think with something like PSSP, the awareness creation has to be ongoing for several reasons. For example, I am here. I'm not so much aware of the creation of that platform. So, yeah, we are being sincere, please. We are being sincere. So, what mechanism do they have for continuous awareness creation? Because if people are aware of that platform, from all we have said, we will be sure that our problem have been solved a bit. I'm sorry, sometimes I do not speak like a government official. It's because of one reason. I was once a port user. I was once a ship master for some years, and I bring in my ship to the port, and I know what happens. So now that I'm gone to the regulatory agency, I kind of see it with the different eyeglasses. The problems that are there, because I was facing the problem before. Now I'm part of the solution provider. So when I kind of make statements, it might be real. It might not be so flavored. Forgive me, please. So two things I said is awareness continuous. Then if the person pulls up a report, say, look, I'm here, I'm having problem, and you say that the platform will correct it. What if the platform does not fully correct it? What next? Let us take it to the end, because the idea is for the person to be satisfied. Thank you.
Mr. Bakari, you look like you want to respond.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Definitely. The general idea behind PSSP was to render, for anybody with, grievance, to be able to render it on that platform, and that report is escalated to every agencies represented at the port. Members from all these agencies have been profiled at the back end of the platform. So the SOP that you spoke about, sir, that you are not aware of, that must have something to do with how NIMASA have cooperated so far with the committee. This SOP was launched, the PSSP launched by the Vice President of the Federal Republic 2016. It was launched in 6 ports across the nation, and NIMASA was part of that launch. You developed your own SOP, and it's a complete SOP covering all your activities at the port. If the awareness is still very low inside of your agency, then the fault is located with you. Of course,
Mr. Bakari, if I may just interrupt, because what is very clear to us in this process is that the awareness is generally very low.
Very low, yeah.
Outside the ports, it is low. Maybe at the top, it is high, because those are the people who subscribe to it.
To the idea.
But driving down the process and all the tools for making it a part of people's everyday job, maybe those tools are yet to be created in most agencies. I will agree
with you totally on that.
So maybe that's why Mr. Obama is not...
For instance, why I agree with you, for instance, the committee, so far I think we have visited NIMASA 3 times. So at the top, the awareness is high at the top. Whether, the concept or the general idea percolates the entire organization, I would never be able to say. So I agree with you that the awareness may be high at the top, but percolating down, no, maybe it's very low. I agree with you.
I know Mr. Obama wants to come back. Let him come back, and we'll come to Mr. Fadipe. Sir. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman, for bailing me out. Yeah. I was not actually saying that awareness has not been created. What I was pointing out is to the fact that awareness creation has to be a continuous project. That's what I was pointing out. They have created it. What mechanism do they have in place to continue until the real end users? For example, you have a shipping company. You call the executive to a meeting. You finish up the deal. But the person who is going to generate and send into that platform is going to be maybe the man on the ship, the captain, and he's not aware. So let them continue this awareness, because this platform is useful. It's very nice. Let the thing be continued and let it go on. And I still asked, if the thing is not resolved or it's not resolved completely, what next? Is it something in the platform or a mechanism that is in place?
To Mr. Fadipe. Okay. Please use the mic, sir. Yes.
ICPC, for instance, is on the platform for enforcement. So if resolution cannot be gotten through that particular platform, it is, the timeline is clearly stated on the platform. After a particular threshold of time, the report is now escalated to ICPC if it is ethical issue and service delivery issue for resolution. Enforcement is there, but it is the last result. And like I said, every issue that have been reported on the platform so far, none has escalated to enforcement, because
everything has been resolved.
immigration can testify to that. I mean, all agencies here can testify to that. And to the issue of publicity, honestly, I'm not a person that normally I don't push boundaries. But publicity for that project, by arrangement, by design, was actually given to NIMASA. Yes. That is to show you the good job they are doing with regards to publicity, if an official of NIMASA is not even aware of that. Up to today, I do not think that a single penny has been contributed by NIMASA to promote the project. I mean, that is to show the commitment at the top as well as at the lower level.
Okay, before you respond, sir, let me just quickly announce. We are told that our audience has known that there are people who are following us online as we're speaking, that is being live streamed. If you want to follow it, is the hashtag CBI Roundtable. CBI Roundtable is the hashtag. So let me and it's being streamed live on WebTV-NG. 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 Okay, so Mr. Fadipe, a very quick reaction before we go to the port users.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, moderator. Just a clarification for the government agencies on board of vessels now. Based on what Mr. Obama said about their statutory functions as regards regulation and as regards the tonnage on board. One thing should be clear to all government agencies here today who are boarding vessels and why government decided to give timeline. Any official of government on board of vessels ask the captain to grapple with. It is this captain who you will engage, and as long as you are on board of that vessel, the captain cannot do anything. We have vessel captains here, and that's why government clamor for joint boarding after port head to be able to reduce the timeline. But the fact that agencies are boarding separately increases the timeline. And we said, if there's any infraction, you must have been able to detect it within your timeline. And when it is detected, there's an agent who husband that vessel. Engage that agent down the vessel to your office, because the vessel is still carrying out operations at the port. Establish it, and when you establish it, government have put in place a tool called remitter. If truly there's an infraction, issue remitter and let that vessel agent do the needful. That's just the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, this way, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Clearly, it shows that we have a problem. If the agencies who are supposed to be on this committee there is this shortage of knowledge in it. Awareness is short. He had actually clarified one thing that is of concern to me about this timeline. If we are thinking of creating a transparent system, we shouldn't be looking at the worst case. We should look at what time something could be done reasonably. And that's why timeline has to be there. And if the timeline is to be exceeded, somebody should put something in writing. I know that's one thing we all run away from. Nobody wants to, they will say, don't quote me. If you think you have found anything serious, put something in writing, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and serve it on the other party. Then coming to publicity, I think at a port, maybe we have to have a billboard, something big, where you can say, if you have complaint, this is what you can do. So that, is it there? No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it should be there, very visible. So everybody will see it. Just like in those days, we have Savicom. I mean, we know we had Savicom in this place, and we know what has become of Savicom. You know.
So, madam, you have been called back.
Yes, this is just to give an assurance that the PSC had taken a resolution on that, and we are implementing. So very soon, at every port entry, you're going to find such an advert there.
A round of applause, please. In Lagos, we had Mrs. Rashidat Okodwa, MNI, from the ICPC, actually on the panel. And I would like to quote the way she put it. She said, we're making incremental progress. And what we would like now is to see whether there's any way to fast track the progress in what we're doing. So far, we've been talking a lot about vessel clearance. Yes. But what about the cargo side? Because there was a study that was done by, I'm sorry, because of time, we compressed what we had for you today. Otherwise, we would have shared some results from the surveys and what came back also from the ship captains. But many are saying that some of the things that worry them, especially those in the oil and gas sector, that their issues are not captured in the SOPs at all. How do we react to this complaint? That some of the very specific challenges they're facing are not covered at all in the SOPs. How do we respond to that?
Thank you. I believe the way forward, as we mentioned when you came to MPA, is that if you have areas that you believe should be covered and it is presently not therein, you can actually write a letter to the particular agency saying that for your SOP, we would like to have clear procedure with respect to ABC. As at the last time that we interacted, we have even internally looked at our SOP, calling for comments, and we noted what you mentioned to us in our offices. So we're already looking at that. But on the larger scale, I would say that if you have any area of concern, you should let that agency know. Or also the PSC. That is why we meet. We meet to update, to see how we can address issues that come up. And this is the whole essence of feedback from the stakeholders. So we appreciate it. If there are specific things you would want us to address, we would be happy to look at that. What I'm saying now for Nigerian Ports Authority, that we have already opened our SOP now for review. Thank you.
I think it's one of our resolutions at PSC meeting that the SOP as we have it presently on the PSSP, they are due for review. And every 4 years we should be looking at it to revise the SOPs because of exigencies of our situation at the port. So they are due for revision, and inputs are welcome from every stakeholders, every operators at the port, at the organizational level and at the committee level, so that we can have a working SOPs.
Okay. I was hoping you would react, sir.
Yes, we would look at those SOPs and we'll respond. You know, we have all the sectors as our members. We will do that.
Okay. And yes, we also, at the Convention of Business Integrity, if LCCI is already doing this, we would join LCCI in looking at all of the SOPs and trying to highlight where there's opportunity for improvement. Okay. By way of summary, therefore, it seems like most stakeholders, whether in the ports or outside the ports, have not been sufficiently reached with information about this project. Is that a fair conclusion from what we've discussed? We are witnesses that all of the cases that we know of from the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network that have been reported through the PSSP have been resolved in a very timely manner. I think people are calling for greater transparency in the standard operating procedures, greater transparency in the reporting. People want to be able to get to the site, the PSSP site, and see that there have been 1,000 reports, of which 999 have been resolved. It gives confidence to whoever is going to use the system. Even for them to be able to break down that, okay, how many complaints were against customs or against, so the question that was raised today about customs wouldn't have come up. You see that, okay, of all the ones that went to customs, even those ones have been resolved. It will give a lot of confidence for anyone who has an issue with customs, because I don't know if we will all agree, customs appears to be one of the very powerful stakeholders at the ports. I mean, all the stakeholders are powerful. Sorry, sir. Okay, I won't echo that one. Okay. So, we find also that there is a mechanism that is working, and yet we're not promoting it, which has been a challenge actually with government. One thing we would like to challenge all of the agencies involved with is to keep records of every port call, and also every cargo clearance. Because if we're keeping only a tally of incidences, we will never know how well we're doing. But if you can say also on that site, there have been 1,000 ships that have come, there were only 2 issues. I think it also gives a perception to the port user, rather than saying we have received 10 complaints and 8 have been resolved. They don't know that it is 10 out of 10,000, for instance. So we need to also look at the numbers. And this is part of what the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network has been hoping to support the project, the government's project with. We've identified 10 areas that we want to go to. I'm saying this by way of summary so we can yield to the other agencies that are seated in front to make their own contributions as well. We're going to continue industry roundtables like this one to keep informing people and stakeholders. The next one is going to be November 19 in Port Harcourt is the next one, because we've not done anything at the eastern ports. We'll come back to you, sir. The second is we're going to have a social media advert campaign. The third one is we're going to write newspaper opinion pieces and articles, at least 2 every quarter, to keep this issue fresh. We are going to create advertising materials. So even the ship captains who are calling Nigeria should have a little poster there. So even when the officials board, they understand that, yes, these people understand PSSP, know the standard operating procedures. I think those vessels putting up that display will also be a bit different. Same thing on the cargo clearance side. We want to make sure that there's an app where all of these standard operating procedures, you can go through them very quickly. The private sector doesn't have time to go through pages and pages and pages of SOPs per agency before they know what they're supposed to do and what their rights are. So having a platform like that for the private sector, even the vessel captains, having a system where immediately after calling at the port, they can say, so how was your port call? Thumbs up or thumbs down? If you hit either of them, small questionnaire. Quickly give feedback as well, so we know how well we're doing or how well we're not doing. Same thing for anybody that comes to clear cargo at the ports. Thumbs up or thumbs down. A quick survey. We should have those kiosks at the ports that they can use. They should also be able to do it straight from their mobile phones. We also want to have a radio program on the maritime sector, which we will do with the stakeholders of the project, the government project, in order to make sure that this awareness is going on all the time, continuously, as you referred to Mr. Obama. Also, there's already a quarterly newsletter. It's a print version, but which means that all stakeholders who don't get that print version don't even know what is going on. So we would help to increase the circulation and also take it digital so it can go globally. Because the people who are interested in what is happening at our ports are not just here in Nigeria. So we would also support that. Then we have done a detailed stakeholder mapping. And we will then start to do one-on-one visits with all of these stakeholders. This is a 3-year to 4-year project. It's not a sprint. So we're to make sure that over 3 years and 4 years, that enough people who interact with the ports are fully aware of what is going on and what the government has put in place. Then we're putting in place a help desk for those, because the question was asked, why do people not even report directly? We did a survey of 1,005 respondents in Port Harcourt, Abuja, Kano, and Lagos. And they told us that why they don't use public feedback mechanisms is 2 reasons, primarily. Number 1, apathy. The feeling that nothing will happen. Even when I report, what will then happen? Which the transparency around the usage and the success will help to overcome the apathy. And then secondly, fear of retribution. And I know that there is now anonymous reporting, or is about to come through, that is now being done also for the PSSP, that you can report your case anonymously. That will also help when the public becomes aware of that. So we will also be working on a toolkit to help especially the private sector to integrate these standard operating procedures into their own way of working, and the government side as well, that rank and file have a way of integrating it into their normal schedule. So nobody will say they're not aware of what is happening. And finally, we hope that as people are reporting, this can result in a Nigerian Port Integrity Index, where you can say that this particular port, I will use Tinkan, is more transparent than one other one somewhere else, and that the officers there have consistently applied the standard operating procedure regardless of when you use the port or who you meet at the desk. It is always applied consistently, and that you can predict time and cost, which is the most important thing for a port user. How long will it take me? How much will it cost me? Right now, if you have given your sample since August and you are still waiting, clearly it would have failed on those criteria already. So these are the kinds of things that we are planning. And now I would like us to turn the mic over to the agencies that are also here to make some comments before we throw it open to the floor to ask questions. So perhaps we'll start from you, madam, if you'd like to say anything. And then we'll come to Mrs. Ezedimma here. We'll go row by row.
Thank you very much. I've heard what the discussants have said so far, and it looks like the beam is on customs. And I'm wondering, what's going on with immigration? Are we not at the ports? Is there any infractions we are doing that we need to work on? Or do we need to be accorded for what we are doing best? Thank you very much.
Who will bail the cat? Oh, you want to give extra money? Very quickly, I was hoping that Mr. Fadipe would have given the details of the one that involved immigrations. There was a vessel that was detained, not arrested, at Forcados, and it was over seamen's passports. And there was some debate at the time. But as soon as it went through the PSSP, it was escalated to the Comptroller General of Immigration. And we're happy to report that within 24 hours, the issue was resolved. The same company came back a second time, had an issue, escalated it, it was resolved. Came back a third time, had an issue, they escalate. Now, when they come, in fact, they just come and go, no issues. So it is really a success story with the case with immigration. However, the complaint has been, what happened? Were we wrong? We know we were released to go, but nobody told us whether there was a real infraction. And if there was not a real infraction, then what happened to the officer that was investigated? Because an investigation was commenced, but we never heard the result of the investigation. Okay. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Would you please introduce yourself, ma? Yes, ma. Thank you, ma.
I'm Deputy Controller, Mrs. Onilede. I'm SA to CGIS on anti-corruption at the service headquarters. Actually, most of the things we were saying about Nigerian Immigration Service, I handled them. About that incident at Avocados, yes. I even have a letter. I was trying to check online how we responded. Because immediately the thing was on the PSSP, Mr. Fadipe called me and we saw it in our office because we actually have 2 people that were trained on the PSSP. Yes. So I started investigation. I had to call the owners of the vessel in Norway and all this. The problem is that at the port, the problem mostly is with the what they call them, ship agents that take immigration responsibility for all these vessels. Immediately infractions was raised on their seaman book. The captain of the vessel acknowledged that they were infractions. But you know, they went round when their vessel was delayed just for a few moments. They went round and they were saying that immigration needed money. That was why they delayed their vessels. By the time we investigated, I have a letter here that was written from the owner of the vessels from Norway. Let me quote exactly what he said. This is the letter from Norway. His name is Robert Tutor.
What vessel, man?
This Ridgeboard, okay. Leslie. Ridgeby Leslie.
Tankers.
Yes.
Okay.
He wrote to the service and said, could you find, attach our letter to immigration, the basis of the infractions, so like that. And he said, going through the lines of the mail, exchanges and so on, he said, we want to tell you that there was never any reason to make any kind of payment to any immigration official, either officially or unofficially from Norway. So we wrote a letter back to the porter through the Shippers Council, and that was how the case was settled. So the PSSP is working. There are so many infractions they've raised, and we've been replying, and all the issues were settled. So I think the problem is that there should be more awareness.
Please, a round of applause. I almost sound like I'm going from an activist to a marketer for the federal government of Nigeria on this issue. I really think that the work of the Report Steering Committee should be commended. Please, another round of applause. Another round of applause. Okay, is there another agency? There was a gentleman, yes. Your name and your agency, please.
My name is Tunji Olaoye from Public Complaints Commission. Actually, our commission is saddled with the responsibility of listening to complaints, receive complaints, investigate it, and make recommendations to the appropriate authority. Like other ombudsman in the world, like other ombudsman institutions in the world, we take we take proactive approach to every issues, because we believe most of these infractions in the port business is as a result of the administrative injustice. So, as a public complaints commission, I think if you can be included as one of the stakeholders, it will also be of good benefit and to yield result. So my saying is that you should be included in all as a stakeholders. That's my submission.
Thank you very much. Any agency, any other agency from the ports? Madam, would you like to comment? No. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. I believe there's been a lot of progress with... Okay, my name is Ifeoma Ezedima. I work with Nigerian Shippers Council. I believe there's been a lot of progress with the tools that have been put in place by the government. And we believe also that a lot more can be done. Because if everybody comes together and work together, most of the things that we still see, will not be there. For instance, when we go to the ports, I supervise the regulatory services department. So we actually go to monitor the joint boarding and the joint examination of cargo. Those two are reflected in the SOPs. Now, every agency that is involved in the joint boarding, we still have some issues with them. The ones that are involved in joint examination, we actually had issues with them, and we wrote them. So some of them have started working, but there's also the unstructured part of the logistic chain, which is the freight forwarders that are supposed to come and take possession of this cargo. So we are also working on those. So, however, I'm urging this group, especially the government agencies, that we should be committed and try to make this thing work. Right now, it's not optimal, in my own opinion. And I would like to also urge you that we're working on that, because we all here, if there's no cargo, none of us will exist. No government agency would exist. I mean, we won't be at the ports. So we need to do our utmost best to make sure that we do what we need to do. From MPA to customs to, I know that the people at the top are not aware of what is happening. So that's why we write to the top. We go to the head of the department, if it is CAC, customs will go to him. The one in Apapa has been wonderful. He's actually cooperated, and he's actually made sure that the joint examination, customs is there at 9 a.m. Initially, they tell us stories, they come at 1 p.m. so that a lot of things go on. That has reduced. It doesn't happen anymore. For the joint boarding, we need to address it, because some of my sister agencies are still at fault. Another thing, though, is that MACN should please advise the ship captains they should not give any gifts to anybody, because they're still giving the gifts. Don't give, not even the other day, it was a can of Coke that somebody came out from the vessel with. It should not happen. Not even a fly should the person come out from the ship, because we are there, we see them. Thank you.
Okay, a round of applause, please. Any other comments from any of the agencies at the ports that is here? Otherwise, I will go straight back to Mr. Fadikpe, who has been hoping he will have an opportunity to respond. Madam, yes.
Sorry, I had to come up again. I listened to her, and she talked about having issues with sister agencies at the port. Can we know this issue, know how to address them? Thank you very much.
Right now, there's no joint boarding. You still go, in fact, someone tell us, that they are the ones that provide
logistics,
which is wrong. There's a particular agency that is supposed to provide a vehicle to take everybody in and take everybody out. That's not done. So the person goes, picks up immigration or picks up customs, they'll go do the boarding, come out. So there's no joint boarding yet. That's what we found.
Okay. Yes, can you take the mic, please? Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Fadikpe, data, consequences, those two things don't seem to be very clear yet. How can the public gain access to the data around this system in order to give confidence that something is really happening, that if you report something will be done? And secondly, maybe it's more a question for ICPC. How do we ensure that there are consequences for those who are responsible for not doing their job, whether it is on the private side or it is on the government side? Because it's not enough to seize a container. Somebody imported it. Any consequences for the person who brought in the container? Were there any consequences for the government agents who signed off the release of the container? So, Mr. Fadipe. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Pampa. On the issue of data you mentioned,
yes,
there are reports to the project steering committee on happenings on the PSSP. This we can share with you for your own use, so that you know what goes on there. But there are two things I want to mention.
You said you share with us for our own use. Okay.
MACN.
Because what we are really hoping for is something that can be made public.
Yeah, we'll share with you.
Okay.
To make it public.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, two things that I want to make known here today with respect to the SOP. It's not only for government. It's for the private sector too, who operate in the ports, the terminals, and the shipping companies. To what extent are they adhering to this SOP? Because it impacts generally on the cost of doing business in Nigeria when there are delays. And we've seen a lot of delays. And this has to be properly looked into. On the government side, one thing that has been going on that needed urgent addressing is, my director mentioned something just now to say when there's a lead agency who is supposed to coordinate the activities of these agencies to bust them in and to bust them out. Are they doing that? Not only that, when the vessel captains calls, they physically go to the offices of these agencies. And the challenge is none of them has a working email ID where these vessel captains can quickly forward their documents ahead. And that's another challenge which needed an urgent attention. Thank you.
About consequences.
Yeah. The laws are clear on infractions and the attached, sanction. So any infraction escalated to ICPC, we are resolute. Indeed, the PSC, the committee visited ICPC chairman, the new ICPC chairman, recently, not quite a month ago. And the chairman, I quote the chairman, he said that he's ready to back the work of the committee up with the available enforcement power of the ICPC. So any infraction escalated to ICPC, we are ready to do it. And I can confirm that we are doing something that I do not want to disclose presently on something that has been escalated to ICPC, and at the appropriate time, members of the public will know what we are doing with regards to the infraction that has been reported to ICPC. But there will be sanction, there will be consequences, provided Nigerians decide to be using the platform and it is escalated to ICPC. The reasons given for not using the platform, they are no longer tenable. One, if you do not use it at all, how will you know that it will not work? So try us out. Try the platform and see whether it works or it does not work. And you can now go to the press and say that it doesn't work. But if you have not tried it, you cannot categorically say that it's not working. The port sector is making progress. It may be incremental, but jointly we can all work at it so that we can fast track the progress that we are making, and we make our ports very, very attractive and competitive. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of someone from Abuja Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Wali Rashid. Are you here? Yes, you're welcome, sir. Okay, just to very quickly then come to Mr. Oboma and Mrs. Williams and ask the questions. Please, can you the issue of agents came up. And I know that even from some work that has been done by ICPC, it was mentioned that very often the agents are complicit. And I know, I wonder how much power NIMASA has, or the Ports Authority has, maybe to sanction some of these agents at all, or who is responsible for sanctioning the agents? Yes. Well, there are ship agents. Well, will come also, there's customs agents too, but since customs isn't here, I wouldn't take that up, but yes.
Yes, about ship agents. You know, Nigerian law has special recognition for ship agents. We actually, most of the time, deal with agents. When a ship has come and declared somebody as agent, he takes over the job. Some of the things we do, some of our jobs are post-mortem in operation, like my own case, where I work in the NIMASA. A ship comes, she does not comply with the statutory 3% or whatever. I will note the agent.
Please, what is that statutory 3%?
Okay,
just for the sake of the audience.
Okay, that is the 3% freight that the law says the marshal should collect on her behalf.
Okay, revenue.
Every revenue, okay. I'm talking of revenue. Every inbound and outbound traffic of international nature has to declare to the master and pay 3% of the gross freight for the job. That is one of the places we interact with agents. So we have agents registered with us. We have their particulars, we have everything. And when you come to declare, we make sure that you attach a document that will show that you actually did the declaration. So once that is done, even the ship goes away, we are on you. And we bring the full weight of the law on you, as though you are the ship. That's what we do. So the agents know us and we know them. And then, to make it easier, when a ship is to come, because we know it's very difficult to clear some ships within a very short time frame, we actually have a kind of provisional billing system. Even a ship that is in Antwerp can be cleared by NIMASA before it arrives. And if it arrives, if peradventure the clearance figures does not tally with what is on ground, we have a mechanism jointly with MPA done on weekly basis to do that. So we actually hold the agents responsible and we bring the full weight of the section of law to bear on them as though they are the ships and the ship owners. Thank you.
Okay, before we go to Mrs. Williams, maybe I should also mention that we're hearing that ship agents then use this gap as an opportunity to play both sides. That very often, ship agents, if there's an infraction or accusation of an infraction, the captain is very anxious to leave. And then they say, don't worry, you can sail with the vessel. We will sort it out with the agent. And between the officials and the agent, they truly sort it out. And there's some corruption involved in that as well. I don't know how you will respond to that allegation.
Well, I don't know about the corruption side. The fact is that, let me be clear. When a ship, for instance, comes and she brings in cargo, and there's some calculations and some figures are arrived at, and there is a discrepancy, we don't only use that. We work in collaboration, as I said, with MPA, the landlords. The landlords will have to bring in their figures or their information. NNPC, in the case of liquid cargo, we have to bring in their own. So we gather all these things and we come on the round table. We call it the final billing section of NIMASA. So we get information from all these sections and we put it together and we arrive at a very, very amicable solution and in quick time because it's done every week. So.
Madam, do you have any comment? Okay.
I concur with this submission, but on a general note, just to say that following the port reforms, MPA had really focused on ensuring that the environment is conducive to business as it should be. By virtue of the Ports Act, we perform our functions using the powers vested on the Nigerian Ports Authority. For following the ports concession, we have a relationship with the terminal operators guided by our by the agreements that we've signed on to. So generally, I would want to comment generally that we're really working towards being that lead port in Africa. So for almost every issue, we ensure that we take prompt action. Thank you.
Okay, there's a contribution right.
I would like to know, I don't know if it's Mr. Fadipe, I would actually like to know which of the ship agents are complicit. Which one of them, because we need to follow up with these people. It shouldn't happen. And anytime it happens, it should be reported.
You say? Well, for public consumption, let me just say this. My counterpart from ICPC mentioned that at the appropriate time, the public will get to know. Okay, we'll see later, please. But 70% of the vessel agents are complicit. That's the honest truth.
Okay. I don't know, sir, if you have any other thing to add before we throw it open to the audience. Please, if you have a question, we'll recognize you, and you can direct your questions to members of the panel.
Well, what I can say is that if we can walk the talk that we are hearing here today, it's very good. It looks like the future is very bright and good for us. And then we should not create an opportunity for the backdecks within our system, either regulatory or operators, to actually dampen our enthusiasm at this. We also should not be driven by the quest to make a lot of money. We don't turn regulation to revenue generation. Too much of it, it's also not going to be good for business. Thank you very much.
Okay, so from the floor, any questions? Yes, the gentleman over there, followed by the man over here. Sorry, the lights are in my eyes. Okay. Oh, and you already have the mic. Please, you can get up, introduce yourself.
My name is Wale Rashid. I'm Director of Policy for Abuja Chamber.
Okay.
I'm so glad, we are glad to be here. Just a month ago, we had a roundtable on operational efficiency of the port. And the custom and all the agencies were there, including private sector operators. I have some questions and comments. And questions first. When we are talking of SOP, I think generally we are talking of making the port operational and functional. What we have today, the port is not functioning. And when I look at the table, I discover, apart from LCC, the key people here are mostly government people. There's no way you can judge yourself. The government agencies are serving private sector operators. And I look around, we don't have the real port users here. The OPS is supposed to judge your activities. And for example, I want to ask, on that committee, steering committee, I hope LCC is there. I mean, OPS representative is there. I don't know. If you don't have OPS rep, you cannot have input on what people are feeling. For example, the NIMASA rep mentions a factor, said, I was once a port user. And that was why, of everybody on the table, on the panel, apart from LCC, his contribution is different. He's able to speak from the angle of port users. I think for us to get the port functional, the Nigerian Port Authority, Shippers Council, custom, immigration, there's need to involve private sector operators. You cannot rate yourself. The port is not functioning. Whatever we may say, we know what it is. How can you have an SOP and we are all saying it's working, you can do it, and we see the work we are facing in Lagos Port? I think we need to address this following issue. What is happening to the issue of single window? Is it custom that is running it, or are all the agencies into it? Because that is the heart of the crisis facing the port. And nobody is talking about, you can't have a functional SOP when you don't, or you refuse to resolve the issue of single window. Custom is managing it now. Should it be custom that should be running it? Should it be jointly run? Should it be a national window? We are not talking about that, or maybe it's beyond the scope of this event. The other thing I want to mention is I heard something about individual agencies boarding ships. I was wondering which one is more efficient. Is it having joint boarding so that everybody spends 2 hours or 1 hour and you leave, or is it individual boarding? So I agree the SOP is a good start, and it's due and subject to reform and review, which is good. But we must agree that we have a long way to go. And this idea of government agencies working in silos, trying to shield the private sector from what they are doing, it doesn't work, because the agencies are supposed to serve the public, the port users, and they must be adequately represented. If they are not, you will be taking decisions that will serve only government interests. Thank you very much.
I'm right here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sirs. My name is Nathan Williams. I am a reporter with Classic FM, who are also owners of Beat FM. We are in Lagos, we're in Port Harcourt, we're also in Ibadan. Now, the reason why I'm giving all this analysis is because of the Nigerian Port Authority, known fully well. Mr. Fadigbe, you talked about the PSSP, that's the Port Service Support Portal. My question is, how far have you gone, especially since the awareness is low at this point? Now, we've talked about more improvement when it comes to making the awareness known. How well have you related with the media in order to make some few announcements, no matter how short, 1 minute, so that, because I believe, whether you are working in the Nigerian Port Authority or you are having some business transactions, even if you are not, one way or the other, we make online requests, we buy online through some of these agencies. And in order for your items to come down here, it has to come through the port. So what are you doing with the media? How well are you working with the media? We have our branches in Lagos, Ibadan, and the rest of them, Port Harcourt, so that people will know what the standard operating procedures are, the SOPs. It is very, very important. And then there are so many people who are not in Lagos, they are in Abuja. Is there an awareness also for them so that they can know what they need to do, the procedures, the steps they need to take in order to, follow through these processes that are required? Because if they don't, we'll keep having these challenges. And then Mrs. Williams from the Ports Authority, I think it is also very imperative that the Ports Authority also work with the media so that every information, few announcement, 1 minute, 2 minutes, weekly, monthly, so that it can be announced. This will also create awareness, and lots of people will be aware of what is going on in the Nigerian Ports Authority. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much. I'm Mike Adidotun, a freelance writer. Firstly, I want to congratulate the organizer of the event. It's timely. What I'm saying is timely is that presently the federal government is looking for how to generate revenue. And we should take note of all the presenters have said, which is timely indeed. My question I pose to you, the presenters, just like the journalists have said, you need to market what is the advantage on this to an average man in the city. Will it increase tax revenue generation? What are some of the key ways people need to know on introduction of different techniques so that it can reduce to just something? Then to the organizer, I'm also very happy when you're trying to give your overview of your visions, which is highly commendable, and I wish you the best of luck. But my concern is another agency, which you have not even mentioned, Nigeria Export Promotion Council. Yeah, they have a lot of platform, which they are. Then the other area you need to consider is the financial institution, that is the banking sector. They also have a role. The internet provider, they have a role. Universities, research institute, because you made mention of data, such like that. Thank you very much, and I wish you the best.
Good morning. My name is Ajayi Oluwaniyi.
Okay. Hold on, please. Who is speaking? Please. Okay. Okay, please go on.
Okay, sir. My name is Ajayi Oluwaniyi from Standard Exporter Multipurpose Cooperative Society, Abuja. I want to ask a question from the port user survey we are given. 1.2 there says there is presence of clear procedures and process backed by laws. The procedures are backed up by law as instituted to guide operational processes for efficiency at the ports. But goes to 1.3, it says there is exercise of discretionary power by port terminals and officials. The reason why we are here today, I believe, is about service delivery at the Nigeria port, how we can improve it. But here, do we really, as part of the SOP, the standard operating procedures, do we build in a kind of internal control or a compliance unit that is independent of the operators, as in, as they are committing all those, somebody is using his discretion to carry out his or her duties, whereas there is a standard operating procedures in place. Is there a unit that reports such? That is a question.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll come back to the panel. Does anyone want to respond to the questions? Yes.
Yeah. I just want to respond to the comment made by Abuja Chambers of Commerce. Transparency is required in all governance matter. That cannot be disputed at all. But it would never mean that government agencies should abdicate their responsibility. When the corruption risk assessment was conducted, everybody, including CSOs, were involved, and the outcome was published. This committee was established to implement the recommendations. The single window that you spoke about is part of what was recommended in this report. Single process card and a whole lot of other things that were recommended. But at this particular forum, we are talking about one of the recommendations, which is standard operating procedures. So that is why nobody here has mentioned what has been happening with regards to single window, with regards to single process card, and so on. We are just discussing the single process card. But I must tell you, even in arriving at the SOPs that was harmonized and placed on the PSSP, that is the port support, service support portal, the private sector and ordinary people on the street were involved. Like I can freight forwarders were involved. Shipping Association of Nigeria, they were involved. They have SOP there. Shippers, they have their SOP on the PSSP. Freight forwarders have their own SOP on that platform. Even terminal operators, they have their own SOP on the platform. So everybody was involved in arriving at the SOP that we are discussing today. It's not as if, but in implementing it, government will not abdicate its responsibility. Of course, you can't expect them to implement it for you. they will be called upon, all the stakeholders will be called upon to assist where required. That is why it is, and this forum, you can, call it, we are giving our scorecard, so that people like you, the beneficiaries and other stakeholders, you can ask questions on how far that we have done. So it's not as if that government cannot work alone. It's not possible. It will not work. So we have worked in arriving at the SOP with every stakeholders that you can think of, and implementing the concept, the idea. Now we are giving, it's like we are giving the scorecard of what we have done so far. That is just what I want to make. It's not as if the government agencies are working in silos with regards to the port reforms. We cannot. It can never happen. It will not work. Thank you.
Also to respond to Abuja Chamber of Commerce, yes, it's fundamental. You cannot be a judge in your own cause. And I believe that is not the essence of this meeting. We would take feedbacks from stakeholders. In Nigerian Ports Authority, we hold quarterly stakeholders engagement. If we have any stakeholder here that we need to extend invitations to, I'll be quite happy to enlist such. And we'll take the Chamber of Commerce now on board, and we extend our quarterly stakeholders, and you too, okay, to them. Then for the SOPs, we know that SOPs specifies procedures. Each agency we still have our governing laws. We still have the statutes backing us up from where we derive issues even relating to sanctions, as the moderator had mentioned before. So for everything that you do, it will still be guided by what you are empowered to do. And some relationships could just be commercial. So maybe in giving sanctions, it could be administrative sanctions, suspension, withdrawal of services, just to touch on the other issue with the agents. We also mentioned the need to work with the media. I would say this also on the platform of PSC. That would soon come on board. We've considered it, and we are really running with that too, because where people don't have the required information, although that is not to say that it had not been disseminated ab initio. At the launch, we didn't leave it just in Abuja. We went to all the port cities to say, this is what we're in placing on the government side. But then, maybe time has passed and we need to renew it. We've taken that on board, and we'll continue. We'll make it continuous. So that suggestion too is really taken. I don't know if there's any other question directed to us.
Madam, I know that Madam from Shippers Council, if we can have a mic here, please.
Then
I'll come back to you. Okay, please go ahead.
a question that was posed by Mr. Ajayi, I believe, where he said, I want to quote you, probably that's what you meant, do we build in an internal control independent of the operators? Is that the question? Okay. Probably you're looking at the fear of redistribution or apathy on the side of the reporter.
No, he also talked about compliance.
Yeah.
In
the internal control, we built in, independent of that operator, is the port service support portal, which nobody has control over. Whenever any complaints goes in there, you cannot retrieve it. And it has become an industry matter that has been escalated to everybody in the industry. So that's the internal mechanism. So until and unless you start using it, then the better for us. Thank you.
Okay, please. Okay. I just want to... Oh, okay. My name is Mrs. Ogeni from the Nigerian Shippers Council. Just want to add to what they have said, Mr. Bakare and Mrs. William on the composition of maybe the PS committee, that is the project steering committee. It was deliberate. Number one, that it should be made up of the government agency that have a hands-on on the port and the anti-corruption agencies. That is why you have ICPC there, you have TUGA there, then you also have BPP there. Initially, we also have the EFCC and others. And then when the SOP started, we also looked at the agencies that have the statutory right to be operating in the port. It was supposed to be a progressive thing, because as it is now, we have not even cleared that of NAFDAC and Son to be on the platform. We are working on it. So we are extending it to all the stakeholders. And for the private sector, we look at the government agency that is overseeing what? For the freight forwarder, the CRFFM were able to go and get us their SOP for the freight forwarder. For the shipping company, MACN worked with the Nigerian Shippers Council. We came up with one. And for the terminal operator, NPA did work with them and came up with that. I just want to clarify that aspect.
Thank you. Madam.
Good morning, everyone. My name is... Okay. My name is Nafisat. I am Adu. I work with Center for Peace and Environmental Justice, a CSO that should come this way. Okay. Okay. I work with Center for Peace and Environmental Justice as program manager. We are in Delta State. It's still okay. Lagos, Kano, and Abuja here. My question actually is with regards to, I heard the person from ICPC talking about having CSOs work with the development of the SOPs. We work in Warri Port, and we have not been included in any of this. I don't know, is there any medium where we can see the criteria for CSOs that want to work with you? That's my question. Thank you.
Can we take a few more questions and then we'll come back? There's a gentleman with his hand up there, and then we come to the front.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Kingsley Obiako. I work for African Food Export. Considering the fact that we are talking about service delivery, I want to bring to our notice that it's important we begin to look at what happens before the port and inside the port. If we look at the commodities that we transport to the port, the delays before the port and also the delay in the port, it tells more on us when the goods finally leave the shores of Nigeria. So in developing the SOP, please, I want us to consider some of these factors. If possible, the people in the food business should also be integrated in it. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Tajuddin. I work with Access Bank. My question goes to the SAPC representative. Yeah. Very happy to hear that most of the complaints lodged so far have been fully resolved. Excellent. Very, very happy about it. But I'm interested in the number. How many complaints have you received since the beginning of the platform? Okay. And of course, you have said that everything has been regularized. Then I will also suggest that what preventive measures, corrective measures are we putting in place as an organization to prevent the recurrence of all the complaints that have been lodged by the various complainants? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan George. I'm the MD of Dina Investment. We engage in export. I just want to find out if the exporters are also integrated in this SOP. Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Andrew Hansi, Masses Awareness Initiative. My question is simple. We are in a country that works in line with presidential and parliamentary system of government. I want to find out what role does the legislative arm will contribute towards dispersing these procedures, because when we bring up these beautiful policies, the legislative arm may try to be either a part of it or they may not support the implementation of these laws. So in a nutshell, what role is the legislative arm of government playing in delivering service at the Nigerian ports? Thank you.
Mr. Bakari, seems like you'd like to start.
Yeah, my friend from Access Bank, you said the preventive mechanism. The general makeup of PSSP in itself the PSSP serves as a peer review mechanism for all the agencies because they are all there. When a particular agency is flagged for an infraction, everybody on the platform knows. So it serves as peer review mechanism for everybody. And by design, I think PSSP has analytics. All these questions, the man in charge of PSSP, analyzing it and everything will give you the data that you want. So, but our presence, ICPC presence at the on the platform is preventive in itself, because all the agencies do not want their members to be picked up. So they will rather quickly resolve the grievance rather than for the platform to escalate it officially to ICPC, because we have timeline for every activities on the platform. You report, it's escalated to the agencies concerned. Is given certain number of days to get it resolved. If you cannot resolve it in certain number of days, what you should do, everything is clearly stated. It is when you have utilize the total number of days given to you to get it resolved that you are unable to do it, that the platform escalates it to ICPC. And like I reported earlier on, everyone that has been reported to PSSP, the agencies have taken care of it, that they did not get reported officially to ICPC. ICPC, or we are even on the platform, you do not have to report it. We know that, okay, 24 days has elapsed and we're supposed to take action. So the enforcement mandate of the ICPC backing this project is enough prevention.
Can I push back a bit, Mr. Bakari? Okay. Because you already heard that joint inspection, which is part of the SOPs, is not happening. And this is a consistent thing. Agencies are not complying. So even if, and it has been reported before, one of the ones that Mr. Fadikpe is working on, as he mentioned earlier, was escalated from a ship captain. And yet we on shore already know that the joint boarding and the joint inspection and so on isn't quite working as per the SOP. He is now asking, how do we prevent it? Because does each ship captain have to come and complain? We already know that it's not working as was designed in the SOPs.
Very, very good. I acknowledge that the awareness of the SOP is still very low. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge the fact that the top of the agencies concerned have not actually taken the bull by the horn. Because on the two occasions that we have done certain exercises to know what is happening at the port, the committee went to the port to review what was going on. And we discovered that major complaint given by those people that were caught were that they have not been instructed by their agencies to board jointly. And it is on that note that we are working at, even at ICPC, we have visited the immigration based on that. We have visited NIMASA based on that, and we are in the process of getting in touch with the custom. It is after that, that intervention from ICPC that, okay, we will now use the enforcement mandate that, okay, when your officials are locked up or restrained for infraction of the joint boarding exercise, you will take the desired exercise. But we won't do it until we get, we use the contact that we have with all the agencies.
Okay, I hope we're addressing the question now. Okay, thank you very much. Madam, did you want to? Okay. There were other questions about also how civil society was involved or not, because they're involved in the ports in Delta.
Honestly, Mrs. William has just extended an invitation to all of you to come on board on the quarterly stakeholder meetings that if you can see her immediately after this, so that you can be involved. But it became so clear to us, especially at the meeting to ICPC about 2 weeks ago, that publicity is required to take this thing forward. And being government agencies, we can't do it on our own. The CSOs and other stakeholders outside of government are going to be involved. There are so many vexed issues that we cannot vent on our own, but you can put it, the CSOs and other stakeholders outside of government can push it into the public domain for us. So we welcome participation of CSOs and other stakeholders outside of government. And we are seriously working on the political will of the head of agencies involved in these activities too. So that giving an instruction at the top, let the instruction percolate down, and we are relying so much on, if what's come to us and the officials are not complying, we know what we can do then. But we won't do anything until we have done all this. So members of the public, stakeholders, you are enjoined to gather intelligence. We work on the intelligence that you can give us. Intelligence gathering is very important, and we know that stakeholders outside of government can do it even better than us. And you can channel that instruction directly to ICPC or through the PSSP. If you do not feel comfortable with the PSSP, channel those instructions directly to ICPC. We will be glad to have those intelligence. Thank you.
Okay. The question was also asked, I don't know which member of the panel would like to take it, that is there need for a compliance unit? Is compliance an area that should be strengthened in order for these SOPs and grievance mechanism to work better? I think Madam is trying to answer it. Yes.
With respect to compliance, I believe that each agency represented here, we have our compliance units. You cannot be in business with other parties and you're not interested in compliance. So I would want to say that for Nigerian Ports Authority, we deal with the issues of compliances. Some arising out of contractual relationships, some arising, of course, even out of the statute. You need to do what the statute says you should do. And for issues, somebody raised an issue too that when an employee does something, what do you do? Each organization also, too, we have our conditions of service. So we deal with issues internally. And at the PSC level, we come together. You should have the understanding that principally we want to see the recommendations of CRE implemented. So we come together and we try to become like a formidable force in seeing to the type of port sector that we all desire. I would want to reiterate that Nigerian Ports Authority, our vision is to be the leading port in Africa. And of course, compliances can never be traded away if that is where you are heading to. So we're making the progress, and I want to believe, without being a judge in our own cause, that where we were a few years ago is not where we are today. We've had to, in line with global practices, deploy automation to eliminate discretion in diverse areas of our own operations. We hold stakeholders' engagement, as we have said, so that you're not judging yourself. You feel, oh, I'm just doing what is right, but your stakeholders are not indeed satisfied. So to that extent, I want to say compliance matters to us, and we follow through on it. Thank you.
I just want to say that there won't be any need for one overarching compliance unit. Is that not what you are trying to do? There won't be any need for that. One, each agency, they have their compliance mechanism already. And whenever infractions are reported, I think it is those compliance units that handles, those infractions internally for those agencies. The economic, Shippers Council is even the economic regulator of the industry. So they have their own mechanism for resolving, business to business and agency to agency disputes. So the mechanism for resolving issues are there, just the will to carry it to the letter is what is required. And we have taken a step towards that. In a matter of weeks, probably we are going to complete the work that we are doing with regards to anti-corruption policies for all the agencies. We have started that work almost 3 years ago. We have started it, but we have not, unfortunately, we have not completed. All the agencies represented at the port is supposed to have anti-corruption policies. Most of them have submitted for revision, and we are going to take it forward any moment from now. So anti-corruption policies of the agencies to be implemented by their in-house compliance units will help a great deal in this assignment. Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to make any comment? I think this is a good place for us to round up. Sorry?
A question by Access Bank.
Oh, there's a question you want to respond to. Please go ahead, sir. Yes, please go ahead, sir.
But before I move on to that question, I think the rider will be helpful for the audience too. Still on the publicity of the SOPs. The SOPs mentioned, apart from the PSSP platform, you can get the SOP on the different website of all agencies. If you go to the website of Nigerian Shippers Council, the SOP is there. And on the other agencies, platform, you have the SOPs there. Now, the PSSP on its own is not only even meant for complaints alone. You can make inquiries on the PSSP. There's a column there, you see inquiry. If you click on the inquiry, whatever information you want in the POS system, whatever information you want about any agency in the POS system, it will redirect you through a link for those questions to be answered. And also, as a user of the PSSP, there are checks, balances, and feedbacks. Even lodging in a complaint, it will tell you what is the timeline for that complaint to be resolved. So if it's going outside the timeline, you have an opportunity of going back there, logging in again, and get some things done there. And on the compliance, equally, mention that every agency have their own compliance system. In Nigerian Shippers Council, it will interest you to note that every week, we don't deal nothing less than 8 to 10 mediation meetings. Whereby, when you complain against a party, all parties will be brought to a round table. X-ray the problems, and we'll ask whoever is the hearing agency to do the needful, within which you are given a timeline to do it, and if you do not comply, then you'll be enforced to do it.
So are you saying in a year, we're talking about at least 520 mediation meetings that have taken place in Shippers Council?
Most times more than that. That's why I said this rider will take me to answer the question of the Access Bank man. So not only the PSSP is only the platform you can complain. There are other platforms you can complain. Apart from the PSSP, sir, we have an email platform which has been in existence before the coming of the PSSP. On this email platform, we are talking of an average of maybe 30 in a day. 30 complaints minimum. That is on the email ID. Not to be talking of the one that goes on the telephone, not to be talking of the one that goes on SMS, and not to be talking of the ones that goes on the WhatsApp platform. Because the WhatsApp is introduced because of live occurrences, whereby people will send us graphics to know what is happening, and for us to be able to locate, make the location.
Sorry, sir. Is there a cost to having Shippers Council do all of this work on behalf of people who are complaining?
It's absolutely free. Because there are ways you are paying us for these services indirectly as a port user. Because when you do have your custom duty, there's a percentage of that custom duty that goes to Nigerian Shippers Council at source. So whether you come to us, we work for you or not, you're already paying us. So why don't you take advantage or free of charge? On the PSSP, sir, we have close to 400 as of today. Close to 400 cases as of today. The data could be made available if you interface with us, as in the breakdowns and everything. And again, this is an advice to the users. We've seen situations whereby somebody on the PSSP, but we will discontinue with the PSSP. And we try to find out why you are discontinuing. Most of these complainants, at a point, I won't say maybe threats from the agencies or whatever, they will go behind, resolve, and disengage from the PSSP, which is not good for the system. And we keep encouraging them to let them know this system is a distraction on it. How do you make it work? Even there are some people that will come to us to say, yes, we went to the agency, and the agency is saying, please go back to Nigerian Shippers Council and withdraw that thing, which is not a good thing for the system. But like the president said, he's seeing a new and better future in Nigeria. If we could all work up with this thing, flow with it passionately, I want to believe there's a better future, for the country. Thank you.
Okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. We're coming to the close of this engagement. There was a piece of research that was quoted to us in the Lagos stakeholder meeting that said, I think that every throughput in the port, every 6% increase adds about 12% to our GDP. So the things that we're discussing and the government that is looking for revenue, we really have to take all of these issues that cause delays at the ports very seriously, because increasing the throughput by about 6% would cause our GDP to jump by as much as 12%. So it's very important that we take this very seriously. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that this has been a very well-kept secret. And Nigerians have not known very much about this project that has been on since 2012. But today's meeting is part of a series of meetings to awaken the interest of the private sector and other stakeholders to what has been going on, prelude to starting a 3-year effort of communications, targeted communications, to ensure that everybody is aware of what is going on. Please, can we have a round of applause, please, for the panel? Can I ask the other agencies represented at the ports, representatives of other agencies, representatives of other agencies at the port, to please come up and take a photograph with the panel, please. And then it is lunchtime for all of us. Please, another round of applause for the panelists. Madam, or should I say madams, can you please join us? Vivek, can you join us? Please, Mrs. Ogenyi, Mrs. Ezedima. Yes, we can go down one. So it's safer. Please, the ladies, come to the middle. We like the bright uniform. Always very smart. FRSC, you are part of the... Please join us. Where's Moses? We didn't see you. Please, just hold on 1 second. Okay, they said some people can come to the back here, the next platform, so that you will reduce the width. Quarantine is here. Please come. Is it better now? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's lunchtime. Thank you very much for participating. See this man in green. This man in green. He will give me the... Okay. Sorry.
I said.
Social media asking.
I said.
Yes. Oh yeah. Please do quick.
All right. This is Soja Pampa here at the Federal Capital Territory discussing startup procedures for the maritime sector.
Yes.
Partnership between CVI Nigeria and NGO.
We're going to have a radio program also going on. We're going to have more industry engagements like the one we've had today. We're going to have one-on-one discussions with the groups that have been identified in the stakeholder analysis. We're also going to create tools for ship captains, for government officials, for private sector that helps them integrate the standard operating procedures into the way they work. So it becomes part of the way we do things rather than something they have to look up on a website. We're going to create also an app that allows all of these material to be at the fingertips of the private sector, not something you have to go to a website first and then you are looking for how do I interpret what has been said here. So we would bring all of that out into a platform that allows the private sector engage directly with the port services support portal so that their complaints can go directly on it and they are enlightened. So we will also have other marketing issues, and we're here for 3 years. 3 years to ensure that we communicate the progress and communicate the challenges as well. For instance, we don't want to only keep a tally of how many infractions there are. We want to keep a tally of how many times people used the port and didn't have any infractions, so that we can put into perspective that the 1,000 complaints we're getting is 1,000 out of 10,000 or 1,000 out of 100,000. That gives a better picture of what is really going on.
I also like the part that you're going to be working out a Nigerian Ports Integrity Index. If you can give us further insight into that. Are you going to partner also with research institutions and universities and other experts in this regard? And also, someone has raised an issue about the legislature. Are we going to look at more advocacy to get enabling laws to ensure that we can really get SOPs and other standards effective in the Nigerian ports and terminals?
Let me start with the latter. On the issue of laws, I'm not sure that our problem is laws. It's law enforcement. It's not about just the standard operating procedures, it's about compliance. It's not just about compliance, it's about consequences for non-compliance. We know where the problems are, and I think we should just go straight and deal with those issues rather than, but of course, where some laws are weak and need to be strengthened, we will go back to the National Assembly. We are working closely with the Economic Summit Group that has NASBA, the National Assembly Business Environment Roundtable, and this is an important process through which engagement should be done. So anything we're going to do will be through NASBA. In terms of the index, it's interesting that the ICPC is developing a national anti-corruption rating system. And we're trying to see whether we can speak closely to the ICPC and see whether there can be some harmonization of methodologies. I think that would be more useful. So it's not about universities and so on, but I think at the core of what the private sector is looking for, they're looking for more predictable costs, more predictable time. Whether you're clearing a vessel or you're clearing cargo, you want to know that if it's supposed to take 2 days, it takes 2 days. If it's supposed to take 2 weeks, it takes 2 weeks. Not that it's supposed to take 2 days and you're still there after 2 months. It means that the costs are not predictable, the timelines are not predictable. You can work that backwards to the consistency with which standard operating procedures are being applied, and work backwards to the transparency of those procedures. So we have to enhance first the transparency and consistency of application of those procedures and hope for the result, which is more predictable cost and time of using it. That is what the index should be describing. So if you say that I'm taking something to Tema Port, you know immediately how much it's going to cost you, how long it's going to be. And if you're taking something to the Lagos Port Complex, you know how much it will cost you. And then you have a better tool as a cargo owner for deciding where you want to land your cargoes. Then it makes competition between the ports. Do I go to the eastern ports or the western ports, and so on. So yes, infrastructure shortages are still part of the problem, but even when you remove those shortages, you still need to know where is the best place. And this is where the Port Integrity Index is going to come into its own.
Thank you very much, Soja Pampa. Thank you.
something to you before you go. Okay.
Mr. Ruwase, Mr. Ruwase, can I just ask you one question? Yeah.
Yes, there's a study that was done by, I think, Shepard, that it can result in 12% in our GDP. Well, I don't know. That's the figure I know. 12% in our GDP. So it's interesting.